Good morning or good afternoon or good evening, wherever you're at watching this. My name is Manny Sarmiento. I'm with Bizzle.com, and we have a really great little show today. We're talking about legal. We're talking about legal with Fabian Garcia from Apex Legal. Is that correct?
Correct.
Good. Okay. You got a long name. Apex Legal LLC. ... Okay. So great. One of the reasons I wanted to bring Fabian on today is because there's a lot of questions. I don't know if you know or not, but I am also the president of the Girard Chamber of Commerce, founded in 2008. Since then, we've had a lot of people come through here. One of the things we focused on is education. So, what do I mean by education? Well, anything from SEO, social media, digital marketing, email marketing, but also part of that education is entrepreneurs and business owners and people opening up new businesses and people who already have structured businesses. They have a lot of questions about how to run the business, or sometimes they don't come to us with the questions, unfortunately. Then they go out and start the business and things just don't go the way they planned because they didn't talk to a lawyer, okay, an attorney. That's not a bad word. It's actually a great word. You need to be protected. You need to understand how to start your business, how to run your business, and how to protect your business. So with that, I hope that was a good intro as to what you do.
Intro.
Good, okay. So one of the questions that we came up with together, well, you came up with this actually. What's a litigator and what's a transactional attorney?
Fantastic.
I mean, that's a little bit off topic, but I do want you to cover that since you have it in the question list.
It is off topic, but I think it's very important because a lot of people don't know the difference between litigators and transactional attorneys, right? So litigators are attorneys that you go to, when things have already gone wrong.
Oh,
right?
yeah. We get a lot of those people. Do you do that? Because I can refer a lot of business to you that way.
Right. So, for example, your business is getting sued. That's when you want to hire a litigator because these are attorneys that have experience in going to court. They know the court processes, they know civil procedure well, and things like that. That's not what I am, okay? I'm a transactional attorney. Okay. So I do everything in my control to prevent or minimize the risk of your business getting to court, okay? And I do this by drafting your contracts, by starting your business, right? By filing all the documents with the Secretary of State, and, by making sure that any relationships that you have with third parties are solidified in a contract.
Good. Okay. Very, very important. We oftentimes, well, not oftentimes, but anytime we do anything, we set up an agreement. Whether it's just a simple agreement, now you can write them on ChatGPT. But you don't want to do that, okay? You write on ChatGPT, we do that, you take it to him to check it out, okay? Don't do that, okay? Don't listen to all the hype about ChatGPT doing all your legal stuff. That's not true. So, yeah, we always create some type of agreement. I learned that a long time ago. The attorneys for the chamber came to us one day and said, why don't you have an agreement for that? Because we had a monthly, okay? And on our monthly, we say 12-month minimum requirement. So he said, write an agreement. Okay, so, that's little things like that are so important. Now we write an agreement for everything.
Absolutely. No, and that's necessary, right? Because as good as the relationships may be to you, right? You never think that your friend is going to sue you or that, a family member is going to sue you if they're your business partner. But at the end of the day, you never know. Because unfortunately, when money is involved, people kind of lose their senses and they want their own interest, right? And then something important that I wanted to touch on, because you mentioned ChatGPT, right? To write your agreements and all that. I think AI is a fantastic tool. However, I think, and I would advise against using it, one, because, to write your legal contracts, right? One, because it's too new. Second is because as attorneys, right, my job is to think about all of the potential things that could go wrong with your business, right? So let's say you have a cupcake business, right? Food poisoning, right? People getting sick because of that. Your licenses, to sell, your real estate, where is it that you're going to be selling that? So all of these considerations.
Where are you cooking this? Is FDA approved kitchen or not?
Exactly. So all of those things that, who knows, maybe in the near future, AI is going to be intelligent enough to be able to incorporate that, but everybody's different.
Something important about ChatGPT is it goes back to 2021. So laws change, don't they?
Yeah, they change.
We've had a lot of laws change in Florida.
Absolutely. And everybody's business is different, which is why I also advise against using, the standard documents that people can just pay for online, right? Because, for example, one marketing agency may not have the same needs or the same risks as another marketing agency, and the laws and my job is also, it's all about risk allocation, right? We want to take the risk away from the client and put it on third parties, and that's how negotiations are made.
And we've had that too. We've had people come to us, oh no, I get all my documents done on legalsomething.com. I don't want to mention their name, so no, not a great idea. If you do that, once again, also bring it to Fabian,
right,
and have them look at it. Don't rely on online.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about. We get a lot of startups. We get a lot of business owners. We get a lot of entrepreneurs. We get a lot of international people come to Miami and they want to start a business. So let's talk about corporate structure. There's a lot of confusion about that. We had a conversation before we started here because I'm not. I believed, and then you're going to clarify this, that an LLC is not always the best thing. But everybody when they come, especially when they come from outside the country, they talk about we open up an LLC. And by the way, we've had unscrupulous lawyers charge them $3,000 to open up an LLC that you can do on Sunbiz, or you can do a little bit cheaper here and protect yourself with Fabian. So what's the difference between an LLC and a corporation or individual proprietor?
Right. So I get a lot of clients that come to me. They have a magnificent idea, right? They say, for example, they want to open up their bike shop or a marketing agency or sell cupcakes or whatever it is. And a lot of them, they are under the impression, same as you, that they don't need to have any corporate structure to start their business.
No. I believe in a corporate structure.
Oh, okay,
I understand a corporate veil, but I mean, they go directly to an LLC instead of doing a corp.
Right. So the difference between a corporation and an LLC is, if you're going to open a corporation, there's a lot more statutes, there's a lot more restrictions, and a lot more rules that you have to follow. And the moment that you stop following those rules, your corporation is dissolved. So for those of you that don't know, the corporate veil, essentially what it works as is a shield, right? So let's say you own your own house, right? Let's say I own my house, but I'm operating by myself. I don't have a corporation or an LLC, right? I sell you a cupcake, going back to the cupcake example.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're making me hungry now.
Yeah, right? You get really sick off of the cupcakes, and then you sue me, right? If I don't have the funds to, pay the settlement, you can potentially attack my assets or my house, right? When you have an LLC or a corporation, they both offer a shield, right? So, which is a limited liability. And that's why a lot of people opt for those two.
Okay.
And of course, there's a lot of other structures that people can use, like partnerships and things like that. But we're not going to get into that because, that isn't the most common. Now, corporation, if you don't follow those rules, you lose the shield. Okay. LLCs are much easier to manage, right? Because you just file the documents with the Secretary of State, which is the Articles of Organization. And it's just you telling the state, hey, state, I'm going to be creating a cupcake shop, right? And you let them know where the address is, who your registered agent is, and you're pretty much good to go on that end. Again, the price is relatively cheap, right? When you're submitting the documents. And it's easy to manage. So every year you have to renew your LLC with the state or corp, so that you can keep that shield, if you will.
Okay, great. But then also, if you're doing LLC and you have several partners, you need agreements, right?
Yes.
A membership agreement, what was it called?
Yes. So you need an operating agreement. People call it operating agreement, LLC agreement. It all refers to the same document. And yes, that's an excellent point. So if you are the sole owner of your LLC, I always tell my clients, whether they're single members or multiple members, to have an operating agreement, because it makes it a little bit harder to justify or to support the fact that it's a legitimate business, right? Particularly important when you have multi-members. So for example, if you and I want to start our own company, the operating agreement is going to say, Manny, you're going to own 51% of the business, I own the other 49%, and it's going to say, for example, what events are going to lead to dissolution, how things are going to be voted on, things like that. So all of that is going to be laid out in your operating agreement.
Okay. And you do those, right?
And I do those as well.
Perfect.
And those are not required by Florida statute, and you don't have to submit those to the state. That's an internal document. But it's very, very important to have for those very reasons, right? Because we're good friends now, but what if our relationship turns sour, and then, or we have a disagreement on how the company is going to get
we've seen a lot of that too,
right?
With the chamber, we've seen that happen, and like you said, you think everything's hunky dory, and then a year goes by, and why do you do that this way? The arguments begin, and and then they want to dissolve, and somebody gets messed up in the transactions.
Right, and sorry to cut
No,
you off.
go
And then
ahead.
the
No, it's
importance in operating agreements and drafting any contract for that matter is to be concise and to be like bulletproof, pretty much. You want the language to be clear. I think long are the days where attorneys would draft agreements that are completely not understandable by a regular person, right? My firm is of the philosophy that we want the client to understand what it is that they're getting into, right? If I'm drafting an agreement, I'll draft it for you. We'll sit down together. I'll explain it to you in English, right? We want the client to be able to read that sentence and be like, oh, okay, that's what that means. Not, oh my God, this is like in legalese and I don't understand anything.
Yeah, I mentioned that to somebody that layman's terms. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Do we have to say laywoman's terms? Okay. All right, so great. All right, now you got the corporate structure. Then there's the EIN, the taxpayer, or sometimes called the TIN, right? Taxpayer identification number. When do you get the TIN or the EIN?
Right. So once you form, and we're going to stick with the LLC just because that's most common for small business owners. Once you submit the documents to the Secretary of State, then you can apply to the EIN number. Okay. And that's a relatively simple process. You go to the IRS website and you apply for the EIN. And what this number is going to allow you to do, it's going to let you open bank accounts. So, for example, what a lot of people do, and obviously the purpose of it is so you can get money to fund your business, which is something that we're going to talk about in a little bit. With the credit cards and stuff, you have to make sure that if you have an LLC, that you're not commingling funds. What do I mean by that? My personal bank account, my business bank account, they can never be mixed. So I can't be using my business bank account to go to Disney, for example. Even though some people might try to, justify
Unless
it.
I do videos about Disney, right?
Exactly.
I have a YouTube business, and I can do Disney.
I'd be very careful with that.
I thought about doing that. Maybe this is a lot of work here. Maybe I could. I love roller coasters and theme parks. So I thought, why didn't I do that? Look at this guy on YouTube. He's got 1 million viewers. He's got to be making a ton of money. That's my business. Going to Disney World.
Yeah.
And writing it off on the corporation. Okay.
Or going to the club or anything like that. It's. I'd be very careful with that.
Yeah. But then you can advise also
exactly
on that kind of those kind of transactions.
Of course, because what ends up happening is if you commingle, you lose the shield, and that's one of the biggest things that people come across with LLCs is.
So to explain that properly, they come at you. They want to sue you. You have a corporation. You think you have the shield. The person they come to you and say, okay, look, but you use personal funds, so your corporation is not.
It's not actually there, right? They're piercing the corporate veil. So
that's what it's called, piercing the corporate veil.
Right. You get taken to court. The judge is going to be looking at your company and say, this is not a very legitimate company. You're commingling funds here, so we're going to allow the individual to.
That is one. I'll tell you what. On the personal side, on the business side, and especially on the chamber side, because we're a 501c6, so we are extremely careful. We have our accountant. We cross our T's and dot our I's, and we make sure that every transaction is kosher. But there are things. I mean, we will buy pizza for the staff, and you'll see Pizza Hut on our. But that's that's for the staff, and it's here, so that's quite perfectly okay. But yeah, be very careful. EIN. So I can't use my Social Security number for a corporation.
No, you cannot. The EIN is pretty much the identity of.
Because if I want to use my Social Security number, then that's just be individual or
correct.
Partnership. Which you can also do a partnership, right?
Yeah, you can do a partnership, and the way that I like to explain to my clients is when you're creating a company, a corporation, or partnership, think about it as if you were creating a completely new individual, right? That individual has to have their own bank accounts, it has to have their own identification, their own documents, and things like that. So that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, that's been a good thing to explain, to get people to understand, and sometimes it's difficult for them to understand, is that corporation is a separate entity.
Right.
Okay, there was a comedian who used to say, he's a comedian, so he didn't know whether he would charge himself or was he charging himself too much through the corporation. It's funny, but long story.
Yeah, and I think a misconception a lot of people have as well. It's when you think of I'm creating my own company, you're thinking, oh my God, like I have to have like this big thing, and it doesn't have to be like that. It could just be you out of your garage and, you know,
Yeah.
working like that, as long as you get the permits from the city and all that good stuff.
Exactly. That's another video, because people go out and they sign up. I mean, we've seen quite a few businesses that go out, they rent, sign a lease, and before they actually do their due diligence on whether that they can do that type of business in that location. That's a separate video.
No, absolutely, and that can cost your business a lot of money, because you have to check the zoning regulations and, you know.
Yeah, well, that's a separate video.
Yeah, that's a separate video.
So we've got the corporation, we got the EIN. Okay, can you please explain S Corp, subchapter S? And
yes.
When does that have to be done, and why do you want to do that?
So that's a very good question, and that I get a lot, and people get mixed up with it, right? So clients come up to me and they're like, "Oh, which is better, an LLC or an S Corp?" It doesn't work like that. So an LLC is the entity, right? It's the person. An S Corp is just how the company is going to be taxed. Okay.
So whether it's a corp or an LLC that you file with SunBiz, you still go out and you get your S Corp, right? Your S Corp designation.
So it's an S Corp designation.
Okay.
So what ends up happening is an LLC, if you don't file anything, you get taxed as a partnership. And I'm not going to get too into the taxes because I'm not a tax attorney.
That we need a good accountant for.
Yeah, you need a good accountant for.
We have those, by the way.
So the LLC is automatically, by default, you get taxed as a partnership. If you want to be taxed as a C Corp, which is different, or an S Corp, then you have to, you know, let them know.
It's a longer explanation, but basically in the S Corp, if with a C Corp, if you don't go S Corp, you get taxed two ways.
Right.
You get almost double taxation.
Right. So the C Corp, what ends up happening is there's double taxation, and with the S Corp, there's pass-through taxation. And that's a main reason why LLCs are attractive to, you know, business owners, is because of the tax advantages.
Fantastic. Wow. This is great information. Okay, so we know how to structure. What about agreements? Okay, how do we determine that we need an agreement when and what types of agreements do you typically find that people come to you?
I do pretty much a little bit of everything in a bunch of different industries. So recently I've been working with a lot of psychotherapists that, you know, they want to open up their own practices, just because they recently passed a law that they are no longer restricted to practicing in Florida, so they can practice in other states so long as, you know, they have permission to do so. So it just ranges. A lot of it is service agreements or purchase and sale agreements of goods, right? And those are crucial because what ends up happening is the business wants to set the rules or the boundaries between the business and the client, right? They want to be protected, and that's extremely important for any business in any industry, that if you're going to be providing a service, that you have the language in the agreement that is going to protect you. And that can be through indemnification clauses, you know, through what's going to happen if you don't pay me and things like that. And that can avoid, you know, a lot of problems. And the less ambiguous the language is, the better. Because then the other party can't have any reason to litigate it, right?
Good, okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to one topic that is a hot topic. The independent contractors versus employees. Okay. What we found, what we see, businesses, especially internationally, come into Florida, they open up a corporation, and then they think they can pay everyone as a W-9 or as an independent contractor, but then they require uniforms, they require that they're 9 to 5, they require that they work on their computers, stuff like that. Can you please explain the difference between an independent contractor and an employee, and how do we protect ourselves when we do get independent contractors?
So the main issue when you're dealing with employees or independent contractors, it's what is called agency issues, right? So it's all going to come down to, can that particular person bind your business to legal contracts, or, you know, is the company going to be liable for the actions of that individual, right? So we have to think about it in two buckets, right? So if we have an employee, that employee is going to be pretty much an actor of the company, right? So, and it's much more complicated than this, but we can limit the employee's abilities, right? So for example, if I work at Publix as a cashier, I'm not going to be able to sign contracts on behalf of Publix, right? Because I'm just a cashier and they limit it that way. But if I was higher management, then perhaps I would have the apparent authority to do that, right?
Okay.
So employees are, more tied to the business and they're able to do more. Independent contractors are able to do their own thing pretty much. They don't require the company's oversight. So I'm not guiding you on how it is that you need to be doing things. It's just I'm hiring you for a particular job or a sequence of jobs, right? And then independent contractors typically, and the way that I handle independent contractor agreements is I make them liable for their own actions. So the company is not going to be responsible if you, for example, if you crash the company car, not the company car. If you crash your own car, like on your way to work or while you're doing your duties, then that's on you.
Yeah, I don't see the problem on the contractor side. I see the problem on the employee side, thinking that they can regulate and they can have everybody in the company be an independent contractor, but still regulate how they do their job. Mm-hmm. And DOR regulates that, right?
Department of Labor.
Department of Labor. Okay, yeah. So I see that a lot.
Yeah.
You can't tell someone the hours to work. They're basically, I need you to do this job. What are you going to charge me for it?
Exactly.
Okay. And you finish the job. You can have reasonable expectations.
Exactly.
And put that in the agreement, right? But you can't control them.
Absolutely. And it's all going to come down to the circumstances, right? So I can't have, have you follow the employment policies or have you, like you said, wear the uniform or work the 9 to 5. Like that's all. Even though on paper it may say independent contractor, but in reality you're an employee.
You're not. And then DOR and DOL get on your case. Right?
Yeah, and then that's how you can get sued for.
We see it a lot.
Yeah,
we see it a lot. We have some drivers that come here and they come in their uniforms, even though they're independent contractors. Like, why are you wearing a uniform? Oh well, it's they require it. Well, and then I've had people wanting to take a vacation, and the employer says, "No, you can't take a vacation."
Yeah.
Wait a second, you're an independent contractor. What do you mean you can't take a vacation?
Yeah. One of the big things that I wanted to touch on, now that you mentioned independent contractors, is how if you're a business owner, it's so important that you protect the company secrets, right? And that, for example, Coca-Cola, the ingredients that go into Coca-Cola, or like Moe's, for example, how it is that they make their burritos and the ingredients and all that stuff. Independent contractors, if you're going to have them and they're external, you want to make sure that there's confidentiality, right? You don't want the person to, and some people even put the non-competes, right?
Well, I was going to mention non-compete,
right, yeah. That they don't go out and they do the same thing and they compete against you, right? Now, there's certain laws that go into non-competes which are out of the scope, but that's something very important to consider, employee versus independent contractor as well.
Perfect, okay. So, looking at the list here, okay, raising capital, promissory notes, that's important. If you're borrowing money from personal, well, in that case, the person giving you the money is probably going to have them.
So right. So another thing that clients come to me is a lot of people, this is unknown territory and it's scary, right? Because there's a lot of things that go into it, and there's a lot of areas of the law that work together in harmony to make it happen, right? So for example, if I'm starting my own business and I have pretty little to no money, then how is it that the business is going to run, right? Because you have to pay for certain things like marketing, unless you're in the Chamber of Commerce. And then, you have to pay for all those things, and it's like, how are you going to go about doing that? And then, so you have to have those agreements in place. For example, promissory notes, if I'm asking you, hey, Manny, can you give me $50K? I need to do my thing. Then, you want to have those agreements in place. Corporate governance and compliance, right? Okay. Going back to the whole zoning issues, you want to make sure that your business is running legally, right? I don't want to be selling cupcakes and then to get, hit with a fine because I'm not complying with any federal, state, or municipal laws. And again, the next thing on the list is the employees, consultants, or independent contractors, right? You want to have those agreements with these individuals, right? You don't want to just be, hey, I'm going to pay you $50 and you go do this on a regular basis or whatever. You want to have an agreement that is going to protect your company. I'm a big proponent of putting everything in writing, no matter how small. You just want to have that.
Good. I'm reading here about intellectual properties because I think that leads right into. You talked about protecting corporate secrets, non-compete, NDAs. Okay, what about intellectual property? What about trademarks?
Right. So trademarks are very important because, for example, if you're going to be starting your own company, you might want to trademark the logo, right, for the company. And my main concern, I'm not an intellectual property attorney, so I don't do the trademarks. However, I do protect the trade secrets, right? I do want to make sure that there's confidentiality in anything that, if you're bringing a third party, that there's confidentiality as to how things are done, right? Because no matter how small, people can go out and do their own thing, and you don't want to do that, right?
You do non-competes, though, right?
Well, I do NDAs, non-competes, and confidentiality agreements.
Very,
as well.
very, very important. Okay,
Yes.
I'll tell you that. I've seen that happen. I've seen it break up, and then the ex-partner will go out and do the same business,
Right.
or the employee will go out and take the list, protect your list.
And then you just want to make it reasonable, because at the end of the day, everybody has to make a living, right? You don't want to be completely like, hey, you can't do this type of business. Like, no, you can't do it within this radius.
Yeah.
You have to be, I don't know, like 50 miles off, and you can do your own thing.
Oh, you can't do this you can't do the same thing we do for 10 years. That's not reasonable.
Right. So you want to keep it reasonable. And confidentiality clauses I include them in most of my agreements, just to be safe.
Good. And my suggestion is, if you're ready to start a business, get the domain right away. Okay. Because there's a lot of crafty stuff going on. Get the domain right away if it's available. And then get the .net, the .org, and the .co. That's my opinions, but
I like that.
Fantastic. Okay, let's see. We've covered so much great information. What else do you want to say about you? Okay, how long have you been an attorney?
I've been an attorney for where are we? August. So next month I make 2 years of being an attorney. Right.
Wow. Well, some people might get scared of that, but don't, because you know what? What I've found is the attorneys with less time, and that's pretty good time. That's 2 years. Attorneys, the older attorneys are just getting lazy. Did I say that? Okay. You need someone young. You need someone dynamic who has the time to protect you and take care of you. All right. Fabian, obviously, you're smart. You joined the Doral Chamber of Commerce, so I know you're smart. So this is what you need. You need an attorney like Fabian Garcia to help and protect you, who's got the energy and the desire to help you. So when you look for an attorney, shop around. If you need a corporate attorney, we got Fabian. Anything else you want to finish up with?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch upon something that you said that I think it's very good. I often, obviously, so I'm on the younger side, right? And when I'm talking to clients, it's you just because, for example, an attorney has been practicing for 15 years doesn't mean that they've been a good attorney for 15 years. They could be doing a mediocre job, and they could just be working off forms or anything like that. And I think I've had the privilege, despite the fact that my career has been only 2 years, I've had the privilege to work with tremendous companies and very reputable companies, and been in very large deals, and that gives me the comfort to do my own thing, right? If I didn't feel comfortable running my own firm, I wouldn't be putting myself out there and at the risk of losing my license. So again, if you come through our firm, I give a very personalized attention, right? Like I mentioned, I'm gonna sit down with you, go over agreements, and then if you don't understand something, or if you don't agree with something, we'll work on it. Good. Right? That the last thing I want is for me to just be like, here you go, it's done, go away. Good.
I really want to thank you. We've had some. Oh, by the way, how do they reach you? What's your website?
You can reach me at
phone number, email.
Right. So the website for the firm is apexlegal.us. Okay. My personal email is fabian@apexlegalplc.com, and my phone number is 786-518-5984. And then you can just text me, call me, send me an email whenever you want. I'm a firm believer in providing great attention, so that's what you'll be getting.
Well, this has been a fantastic interview. Really great information. My name is Manny Sarmiento of Bizzle.com, and this has been Fabian Garcia, Apex Legals. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.